Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the FAIRtax Guys. Coming at you again from... Last time we were here, it was 90 degrees in this room. You got it fixed. I appreciate that.
Yes, we actually got it fixed the next day.
But we will soldier on regardless, because we want to see the fair tax pass. Well, because we're soldiering on for truth, justice, and the fair tax way. That works.
And you can help us out, as I ask you each week. Go to fairtax.org. That's the website of the Americans for Fair Taxation. And when you scroll down on the front page, you'll see a section there, Get Updates, in which you put in your information, your name and other information, email address, so that they can send you updates, so that you can receive the Chairman's Report by Steve Hayes, in which he takes one particular subject about taxes and goes into it deeply. It's very insightful. Jim Bennett's Grassroots Corners every week, and there'll be a report, a very simple fair tax preview, what's going on that Tuesday, since we stream to Facebook every Tuesday evening. And then occasionally there's other news articles, which actually we're going to talk about later on here, because I got some good ones.
All right, again, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com is our email address. If you got a question or comment about it, you can leave us send us an email at that address, or you can leave us a comment on one of our YouTube videos or on our Facebook page. There's lots of ways to get a hold of us, and again, ask us a good question and we'll deal with it.
That's right.
In fact, we've got one. We're going to do that a bit later in this call. But now, first things first.
Congress.gov.
There was so much good stuff last week that we didn't have time to dig into it, so we're going to dig into it right here.
So if you go to congress.gov and in the search bar put, in quotes, Internal Revenue Code, and make sure that over on the side the 117th Congress is clicked and only legislation, okay?
Yep.
Then you're going to get, well, let's see, last week it was 384 proposals.
Mm-hmm. And it hasn't changed since because we do this every 2 weeks, so we still got it. But this one had to catch my eye. You know, I'm a rail fan. I love to just sit by the railroad tracks and wait for the trains to come by. H.R. 2289, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide a tax credit to encourage the replacement or modernization of inefficient, outdated freight rail cars and for other purposes.
You know, since a freight rail car doesn't have an engine, how inefficient can it be?
Well, I don't know.
I'm not sure either. But the thing is, you don't need to modify the tax code to incentivize railroad companies to replace old equipment. If you pass the fair tax, you're going to make it easier for them to do that automatically when they think it's necessary.
I'll tell you what, well, if you get a bunch of new rail cars, all that means is that the graffiti artists have a lot more fresh canvases to work on. Sorry, I couldn't resist that one. Let's move on along here. H.R. 2288, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to reinstate advanced refunding bonds. Do you have any clue what advanced refunding bonds are?
I have no idea.
But the key here is, well, this proposal is going to reinstate something. The next year they'll take it back, and then they'll reinstate it, and then they'll take it away, and then they'll reinstate it. All of these things about repealing stuff or adding stuff, it just adds to a tremendous instability in the tax code, which is just incredibly detrimental to the economy, because it hurts businesses when you can't plan ahead and you don't know what the next year's tax plan is going to look like.
Now, again, these are proposals. These won't necessarily become law, but some of them will. Okay, but there's, in 47 days of the act of Congress, there's almost 400 proposals.
H.R. 2284, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to clarify that gain or loss on the sale or exchange of certain coins or bullion is exempt from recognition. What kind of recognition do you get out of the tax code? Who knows? H.R. 2276, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to make permanent, again, they're going to change something and then change it back, and then they want to make permanent the deduction for mortgage insurance premiums. Now, what happens here, you get these little tax breaks, they call them tax extenders, that for some reason, under some crazy provision, that this provision, has to expire within a year, and then they come back and extend it, and then they come back and extend it, and now this just make this, why don't they just do it permanently the first time? Why is our tax code so convoluted and so complicated that they even have to resort to that kind of procedure in the first place.
There are people in Congress who savor this type of constant change because it's a way for them to get campaign cash either indirectly from the lobbyists.
Okay, so the 2276 wants to make permanent the deduction for mortgage insurance premiums. 2275 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to make permanent the exclusion from gross income of discharge of qualified principal residence indebtedness. So that sounds like when you pay off your house or something.
Yeah.
So they have temporary things, then they make them permanent, then they repeal them, then they give them back to you, and then they repeal them again, and then they give it back to you. And the whole tax code balloons to over 70,000 pages that nobody can understand.
Yeah. The tax changes are an industry inside the Beltway in Washington, D.C. I mean, there's thousands of people, lobbyists, that make a living doing this by lobbying Congress critters to adopt their particular tax change and so forth. And as you can see by the almost 400 proposals in less than 50 days that Congress is in session, it's a very active industry up there, isn't it?
When you've got a system where there's just all kinds of picking winners and losers, this group gets a tax credit, this group doesn't, this group gets one, this group doesn't, and if you can get rid of all the picking winners and losers and get rid of all of the instability where you're giving something, then taking it back and giving it something back, those 384 proposals will be down to about 10. So if you pull the whole thing out by the roots with the fair tax, then it goes down to zero.
Yeah,
and the Congress critters aren't messing with your tax code anymore. And if they do, you see what they do on the receipt every time you buy something.
Yep.
So,
and this is why there are people in Congress who fear the fair tax. But there's more of us than there are of them, and we have to make our presence known. All right. Mm-hmm. So become a fair tax advocate, or even an activist. Okay.
Yes.
And help us get this done.
So we just love here on this program exposing the absurdity of the tax code. That makes the greatest case we can for getting rid of it and replacing it all with a fair tax.
Yep. Oh, true. Yep.
Okay. Moving along. We'll get some more of these next week.
We've talked about, we've encouraged people to send us emails and so forth. You can send us emails at thefairtaxguys@gmail.com, or you can send us a Facebook message. We got one a few days ago.
We got one.
Yep. From Harold Radke. Thank you, Harold. Since gasoline and diesel have both federal and state taxes embedded in them, will it also be fair taxed? And the answer is yes. Any retail product, that's new, and of course gasoline is new. There's no such thing as used gasoline.
Not in this usable form. We're talking about retail purchase of gasoline and diesel fuel will be taxed. Of course, if a wholesaler selling a year's supply of diesel fuel to a school district like that would not be. That's not a retail purchase.
That's right.
So again, we're talking about the retail purchase of these products at the gas pump. Yes, they will be fair taxed, and how the taxes that are currently there. Most of those road use taxes, they supposed to be earmarked the money that those taxes raise for maintaining the highway system. How the fair tax is going to change that? Not really sure.
Well, here's my answer to him, and then I'll give you Kerry Bauer's answer to him.
Kerry Bauer. Kerry Bauer's jumped in on this too. What would we do without him? I tell you, we appreciate him a lot.
And my answer is yes. All new products will be subject to the fair tax. Keep in mind that when the income tax and the IRS are eliminated, all costs of complying with the income tax will also be eliminated. Therefore, the cost of producing new products, including gas and diesel, will drop. They will not increase by 23%. Okay?
Nope.
Now, Kerry came up with some other information, which he's always thinking outside the box because he has such a comprehensive knowledge of the current tax law and how the fair tax will differ. When I examine a question like this, I first think about the tax consequences today and how the fair tax would be applied given the requisite revenue neutrality, okay? Because the fair tax is revenue neutral. It'll provide the government with the same amount of revenue that they're currently getting. Today, people are buying gas inclusive of embedded federal taxes that include income, payroll, corporate, and excise taxes. These in addition to the state excise tax and state sales tax. Okay.
Yep. So the embedded cost of the income tax system is passed on in the price of fuel, just like for any other commodity. Don't think that oil companies don't get taxed to the hilt.
Yeah.
Oh, mercy.
Yeah, they do. The consumer is, of course, making these purchases today with incomes reduced by both income and payroll taxes. Now, this is a good point. If you want to buy $10 worth of fuel, because of the income taxes and the payroll taxes that are taken out of your paycheck before you get it, you have to earn, in order to spend $10, you have to earn $13. That's a generalization. It may be different with different people, but still. You have to earn $13 in order to spend $10. Keep that in mind, all right?
All right. So good question, Harold. The short answer is yes, it will be, and there's all the reasons why.
Yeah. Now, Harold followed up with another question. So that means there will be a fair tax on the fuel tax. No. Okay. The fair tax will be assessed on the base price of the fuel. Okay, not the federal and local taxes. Okay, those will not be taxed. All right, and they're pretty hefty too. You know, when you don't see this on the receipt when you buy gas or diesel for your vehicle. Okay, it just says how many gallons, the price per gallon, the total. That's it. But in there are a lot of taxes. All right,
yeah,
both state and federal.
You can Google that up, and it varies by state, and sometimes it varies by counties within a state.
That's right.
But man, I remember, when I first started driving, gas was like 20, 30 cents a gallon.
Yes, when I was in college, pumping gas as a part-time job, right around 20 cents a gallon.
The taxes are twice, even 3 times what the whole price used to be when we first. Yeah. Of course, I started driving back in the Stone Age.
So, like Bob said, if you look this up on the internet, you'll be surprised at how much the price of the gas is, and then how many taxes are added to it. It's considerable. Okay. The gasoline or the diesel will be taxed, not the taxes that are added to it. Okay. So
good question.
Right, so that was a good question, and I like that Carrie reminded us about that you, under the current system, you have to earn $13 if you want to spend $10. That's an important feature,
that's true
because
whether you're buying fuel or anything else.
That's right, because under the fair tax, if you want to spend $10, you can only have to earn $10.
That's it.
Yep, it's very simple. That's one of the many reasons we like the fair tax.
Let us move along here. You've come up with some a pretty good collection. You look at Politico. You get a bunch of little articles about taxes that sometimes have some pretty cool things in them.
Yeah, one of the nice things, I mentioned that when you sign up at FAIRtax.org, you'll get the chairman's report and the grassroots corner and so forth. Well, at the bottom of these, after you read the report, there's going to be attached some other news articles. So I went to a couple of those and I found some doozies, all right? This is all about the current tax system, the IRS, and so forth. That's what this episode is about. All right.
Yes, but the IRS has moved the tax deadline for this year, just like they didn't move it as far as they moved it last year.
Right.
But they have moved it, except there's a little bit of a caveat.
Yeah, there's a little glitch there. Estimated taxpayers payments. Don't sweat the small stuff. This is from Forbes. It's dated March 26th, so it's about a week old. And it's by Peter J. Riley. Okay. The decision by the IRS to extend the initial filing date of individual tax returns to May 17th was mostly a good thing. However, there's a wrinkle. All right. Unlike the 2020 due date of the first quarter, estimated tax payments was not changed. Okay. That remains at April 15th. So if you're in a small business or you're self-employed and you have to do quarterly tax payments, all right, that's still April 15th. In fact, I'm wondering now, because this doesn't, if you're a corporation, like an S Corp or a C Corp or something like that, your filing date is March 15th. Okay, and I don't think that's been changed. Okay, so this sounds nice that the filing date has been changed to May 17th, but for some people the deadline is still April 15th, and if you go beyond April 15th, they're going to charge you interest.
Do you realize there's another unintended consequence of extending the filing deadline?
What's that?
That just gives identity thieves more chance to steal the identities of procrastinators.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
I don't know why that popped into my head, but it did.
No, but you're right. That's a horrible reality of this current tax system. So identity theft.
Another reason, that we need to get rid of the whole system, yank it out by the roots, replace it with a fair tax, and no one can steal your identity while you're procrastinating for a new. They put it off to July last year, if I remember right. I mean,
yeah. Well, that was a mess last year.
There had to be some people who just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, but it's pay me now or pay me later. So, anyways, all right, here's another one. This is here are some truths about corporate tax avoidance. Now,
of course, the Biden administration, now they're trying to raise taxes on corporations. And you go to Facebook, you'll see people on both sides. Oh yes, these guys have to start paying their fair share.
Yeah,
they don't understand the basic economic truth that corporations pass their tax liability on to their customers.
Which we've said over and over again.
And we'll keep saying it over and over again until it gets through some thick heads. That's just the truth.
Here are some truths about corporate tax avoidance. Now, tax avoidance is legal, okay? Tax evasion is illegal. Yes. And there are a lot of people, a lot of individuals that are engaged in tax evasion. This is not evasion. This is avoidance.
Tax avoidance is finding legal loopholes, what you pay all your tax attorneys to do for you.
In other words, you got a good tax attorney or a whole battery of tax attorneys that are finding legal loopholes.
The costs of which are passed on to the consumer.
Yes. Okay, this is March 25th, so it's about a week ago, from the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policies by Amy Hanauer. All right. In 2020, the pandemic killed hundreds of thousands of Americans, and unemployment soared to levels not seen since the Bureau of Labor Statistics started collecting data in the 1940s, a long time ago. Okay. Despite that, Amazon's profits surged to $20 billion a year as people shifted to shopping online. Makes sense. They didn't want some of the stores were closed down. People didn't want to go to stores. They didn't want to get near other people that might have the virus. It's understandable. So we had a lot of online shifting. Online shopping, online shifting. All right. Anyways, but the company paid just 9.4% of its profits in federal corporate income taxes. Whoa! After paying 0 in 2018 and about 1% in 2019. All 100% legal. 100% legal because that's the tax plan that Congress has given us, all right? These folks, especially a huge corporation like Amazon, they've got a battery, a division of tax attorneys and tax experts that show them how to structure their financial dealings and to minimize their tax liability. And they should. Any business should do that. If you're paying more taxes than you legally need to, you're a bad business person. Right?
You know what else they've got?
What's that?
An army of lobbyists in D.C. Buying all the provisions that they find in the tax code to exploit.
Yeah. So
that's a crooked system, folks. We need to get rid of it.
Same thing for Netflix. It talks about Netflix, how they had $2.8 billion in profits, but yet the company paid less than 1% of these profits in federal corporate income taxes after paying nothing in 2018 and about 1% in 2019. Again, 100% legal. You may not like it, but that's the tax code that Congress has given us, okay? So while we're paying our fair share, they're allowing corporations in some cases to get away with paying little or nothing, okay? And it's all 100% legal. It may not be favorable, you may not like it, but it's legal. Okay. Yeah. And they also mentioned Zoom. Zoom, of course, there's all kinds of Zoom conferences taking place. We in the Florida FAIRtax take advantage of that. Okay. their profits spiked by 4,000% last year. You can understand why. There's a lot of zooming going on. So, but the company paid zero in federal corporate income tax for 2020. Again, 100% legal.
Which actually is the right rate. They should not be paying anything, but they should not have to be paying an army of tax attorneys to get there.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
again, if anything other than zero is passed on to the consumer.
Yeah, it's a little.
When they're not paying 25%, then that works good. Now I tell you, this was a good one.
Oh.
We talk about the backlog. You try to call the IRS. Most of the time, you don't get an answer.
No.
If you do get an answer, you're not likely to. If somebody answers the phone, you're not likely to get the right answer to your question.
No, because how can a person, I don't care if they're an IRS agent, very competent, very experienced, maybe 30 years in the business, how can they possibly know and comprehend 75,000 pages of tax code in court cases? It's not possible. Okay.
Yeah.
So
they got a little bit of a backlog here, do they?
This is from Forbes, and this is dated March 19th, so a couple weeks ago. IRS backlog, 2.4 million 2019 tax returns still in the pipeline. All right, and this is by Alicia
Keyword
Edwin.
2019. Those things are over a year old. The 2020 taxes are 2 years shortly. So they've been messing with that thing for 12 months and then some.
The Internal Revenue Service backlog of tax returns is way down, but it's still significant. Oh yeah, I guess so. As of March 5th, the IRS had 2.4 million individual tax returns received prior to 2021 in the line for processing, okay?
By their ancient computer system.
Yeah. Including 2020 tax returns that people are starting to file now. I haven't even done mine yet, okay? As of March 5th, the IRS has 9.2 million unprocessed returns in the pipeline. What does this mean for taxpayers? Expect to wait in line.
That means the government's going to hold on to your money interest-free for a longer period of time than you would want them to.
Yeah, so if you got a refund coming, first off, if you got a refund coming, you need to restructure your tax withholding so that you owe as close to zero at the end of the year as possible. Because if you have a refund coming, you gave the government an interest-free loan, okay?
Yeah, people don't realize that when they get their tax refund, they're getting their own money back.
Yeah.
The government is not giving them anything. You are getting your own money that was taken away from you over the course of the year by excessive withholding. And then you have to file this huge, complicated document called a tax return to get your own money back, and then they throw you in this line and you have to wait for it.
Yeah.
Crazy system. Let's get rid of it.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, I think we should go with something like the fair tax.
That sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah.
Let's make that happen.
Okay. All right. Well, we're trying our darn best, aren't we? Okay. This is the last one here for the news. Biden corporate tax hike could hit middle-class Americans. Here's how. Now, that's not what the Biden administration is saying. They're insisting that no individual who earns less than $400,000 is going to get a tax increase. But these people
under $400,000 buy things, yes, they will.
Okay,
it won't be called a tax increase, but it'll be there.
We're recording this on April 2nd, and this was dated yesterday, April Fool's Day. Okay, but it's real, and it's from Fox Business' Megan Henney. President Biden on Wednesday unveiled a proposal for the largest corporate tax rate in decades as a means of paying for the nearly $2.25 trillion spending package, an increase that could indirectly hurt the middle-class Americans. The White House is billing the 8-year initiative dubbed the American Jobs Plan. Yeah.
That should be the jobs killing plan.
Let's try to keep it nonpartisan, okay?
Okay. I'm sorry.
As a once-in-a-generation infrastructure fix that will make massive investments in the nation's roads and bridges, as well as transit systems, schools, and hospitals. The measure will be funded by raising the corporate tax to 28% from 21%, okay? Now, we've seen this movie before. We know what happened in 2017 when the Trump administration passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, all right? Corporation taxes went down, repatriation taxes went down, funding flowed into the company, wages increased, employment increased. It was quite a boon in the economy, okay? But you have a difference in philosophy. President Biden believes, and the people that surround him, that the only way to fix things is through government. Okay, that's all they know. And that's because he's always been in the public sector.
That's what happens when you spend your whole life and never have a real job.
Yeah, and so he's never run a business. He's never had to meet a payroll. But so they believe that government is the only way to fix things, okay? But critics say hiking taxes on corporations will ultimately end up hurting workers in the form of lower wages, all right? The corporate tax is not just absorbed by companies. It's shouldered by workers in the terms of lower wages, says John Karch, Vice President of Americans for Tax Reform.
Yep.
Right.
Lower wages for workers, higher prices for consumers.
Yes, that's right.
And lower dividends for stockholders.
So, and you know, that's probably what's going to happen, but we'll see. When Biden says he will raise taxes only on those earning over $400,000, he is saying that his tax law will target those high-income taxpayers. All right, says Taylor LaJoy, a tax policy analyst with the Tax Foundation. Economists, however, trace the economic impact of these taxes past the person writing the check. All right, yep. It trickles down. In this case, the tax burden trickles down to people, either employees and or their customers.
Okay.
So,
well, we got a minute left to do our call to action. Let's encourage folks to go to PopVox and record their support for HR 25.
Yeah, that's a great idea. PopVox is a great site, and you log in with your name and address. That way they know what congressional district you're in and who's your representative and who your two senators are. And so you can go look up HR 25 and say why you're in favor of it. You can also look up other tax plans and tell them why it won't work.
Okay. Plan to be at CPAC next year.
Yes.
Whether it's in Florida or D.C., we don't know yet, but you've got a year to plan for it. We need 500 fair tax advocates at CPAC next year so the media types and the political types that gather there can see that we mean business.
Yep, that's right. This is very important. Please take this seriously. We really need to have a good showing at CPAC next year.
Yeah, we really do. And we really need to wrap this up. We got about 10 seconds left. So again, I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Rob Malero.
We again are the FAIRtax Guys, reminding you that the fair tax is the only truly fair tax. And once you understand it,
you'll demand it. Follow the FAIRtax Guys on social media and their own website, FAIRtaxGuys.com, and check back every week for